Death of George Floyd, as we just saw in Katie's piece, certainly fueling passionate protests all across the country, has many asking, and Gwen Carr said it earlier this week, why does this keep happening? How did we end up here again? Joining us this morning and so much more of this is Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones. Good morning to you, Nikole. I appreciate your time this morning.
Good morning.
So, I read your tweets this morning. I said one of them, the most recent ones, had woke up this morning, didn't want to watch or read the news. Obviously, we're talking about the death of George Floyd here. I'm curious to know your reaction, though, to everything that unfolded from the moment we heard the news of George Floyd to where we are this morning with these riots and protests.
It's just extremely difficult and painful time for so many people in this country, but particularly Black Americans who see what happened to George Floyd is just a continuation of the way that Black Americans have been policed in this country for centuries. And the outrage and uprising that we're seeing in Minneapolis is something that we've seen now for almost 100 years in response to police violence. We could read the Kerner Commission report that was issued in 1968 and see that the root causes are the same. It's just, it's been a really hard week.
Yeah, it has been. Nikole, you sent out a tweet yesterday that had me reading one of these essays that you wrote, and I want to just quote it for a second. You said, "For those of you reading this who may not be Black, perhaps Latino, this is my chance to tell you that a substantial portion of your fellow citizens in the U.S. have little expectations of being treated fairly by the law or receiving justice. It's possible this will come as a surprise to you, but at a very real extent, you have grown up in a different country than I have." It was powerful to read that full essay, and you said you could have written it 5 years ago or 15 years in the future. What do you think needs to change then so you don't have to write that essay 15 years in the future?
I mean, we have to fundamentally alter the way that we see the role of policing in Black communities. You cannot imagine police going into a white community and kneeling on a man's neck for 7 minutes until all of the breath and life leaves out of him because someone was accused of trying to pass a forged $20 bill. But we know that these interactions with police can be so deadly. And that is because we're here to talk about the 1619 Project. We have spent 400 years in this country trying to prove that Black Americans' lives are not as valuable, as worthy, that Black people are more criminal. I honestly don't know how we change that belief system that's so deeply entrenched. But what I will say is what you're seeing in Minneapolis is not just a reaction to George Floyd's death, but to a press conference that occurred yesterday where prosecutors are saying they don't know that there's anything criminally to be charged when people watched a man murdered on national television. And I think there's a sense that there will be no justice, that no matter what we see, no matter what we know, no matter what the facts are on the ground, we know that almost no police are ever indicted for the killing of Black Americans. And I think there's just a great sense of hopelessness right now.
And that brings me to what you just hinted at, the 1619 Project. You won the Pulitzer Prize for this, the 2020 Pulitzer Prize. When we had you here the first time, I was in awe of this project. But moving forward here, this is a multimedia project, in case those who don't know, including essays and podcasts examining slavery's modern legacy as well. Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations to you on winning the award.
Thank you.
Did you ever think that it would get this far, that you would get this much attention for this project, that it would be in the classrooms moving forward now, teaching the kids about this?
No, I had no real expectations on how Americans would respond to the project. It was just something that I felt we needed to do, that to commemorate this 400th anniversary of slavery with a date, 1619, that most Americans frankly had never even heard of, that we need to really, in a serious and substantial way, examine that ongoing legacy. And we can look across, so much modern American life and still see the remnants and traces of that legacy. And certainly what's happening in Minneapolis, what happened in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, with Breonna in Tennessee, are the residue of that legacy. So no, I had no idea how people would respond to it. The project is grappling with some of the most difficult parts of our history and difficult parts of modern America. And it wouldn't have surprised me if people didn't want to deal with that. But I think the fact that they did shows that people in this country really want to understand how we have arrived where we are.
I hope
and
every
we certainly
educator
cannot change it if we don't address this past. We cannot overcome it.
Absolutely. I hope every educator takes a look at it. It is so wide-ranging, bring up racial biases and disparities in healthcare, among other things. Real quick, we have to go, but you may have found your next project, and I want to just see what it is.
I'm still working on the 1619 project. Unfortunately, there's an unending number of essays we can write that are tracing efforts back to slavery. And I'm actually thinking a lot about the slave patrols and how that led to the policing we see of black bodies today.
Nikole Hannah-Jones, incredible, incredible work. It's an honor to talk to you once again. I'm glad we were able to get you back here to highlight this incredible project and also hear your voice on what's happening around the country today. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you so much.